move your screen up just a little bit, and then do me a favor.
Sure.
Go or down just a little bit, and then up a little bit. All right, right there, and don't touch it anymore.
Okay.
All
right.
But why did you come dressed like fucking Adam Sandler? Is that work attire? What is the deal? Because I've always wanted to ask you these questions, and now I get to do it. Why are you dressed like a hobo?
This is the dress. What are you fucking talking about? What, do you want me to come in a suit and tie to talk to you?
I'm just razzing your chain, Ken.
You know, my mom and dad are pretty close with the general. You know who that is?
Mark Austin?
Yeah. Did you know that they were close?
Probably from the old Ruffin days, right?
Yeah. Mark lives in somewhere near Greene County, PA.
Yeah.
And my dad is like an hour away from him, maybe. And so they golf a lot, which is cool that my dad's like got a friend. But it's even cool. It's cool that he's golfing and shit, like having fun. Cause you know, he was so bored down there that because he's retired and my mom's working really hard. So he's like,
are you trying to put out like are you hoping your dad listens to this and changes his behavior and you're like putting this out there for him to hear, or what's up?
No, we're going to edit it out about my dad being a bad husband. Being sad down there. Yeah. I like that hat. What do you got on? Is that a Texas hat?
I was going to not wear this hat because I'm like, this hat's going to cause problems. It's The Rock. And
why does it cause problems?
He posted this video. In all fairness, dude, it was so I don't ever get involved in politics, but this time I have to get involved in politics. And I sat down with Joe and Kamala, and, take it from me, they have a plan to fix this country, and I'm putting my full support behind them, and I'm going to continue to do that. To me, it was the biggest in response to everybody pushing Biden for this long form. It was back when the Rogan conversation was really heating up. And it was like The Rock basically went and answered all the questions that everybody would want answered, but was like, they don't want to talk to you, but take it from me. They've got a plan, but like still not going to tell you what it is. But it was strange. It's just like,
nobody's got a fucking plan.
No,
especially Dwayne Johnson. I don't think so. Like you watch those debates, right? I mean, both of them.
Yeah.
So to me, look, 100% that I'm blue all the way, but fucking Kamala Harris didn't seem any better than anybody. She just like shook her head and played the role of I'm gonna vote for women's rights, so vote for me. And so I didn't see anything there that was like, why does Siri keep going off? There was nothing in that debate that showed me that she was going to be any better than Pence. I mean, look, he's a dickhead. I don't know much about Pence, but just the fact that of the platform that he sort of runs on, I don't like him. Mm-hmm. But Kamala Harris didn't do anything special.
When asked directly if you have a plan to save the country that you're claiming is falling apart beneath your feet, I just get really sketched out when you don't seem to have anything to share with me.
Don't you think you should say yes or no? Like, I have a plan, rather than going straight from, hey, do you have a plan? Well, Trump wanted to take apart the ACA. And it's just like, that wasn't the question. And so I get dodging questions, but as an American, if you want to sway voters on the fact that you have a plan, which I hope that the Democrats have a plan, because that's my ballot all the way. But if you want to sway voters that you have a fucking plan, because that's what the debates are for, then say, yes, I have a plan, or this is what we're going to work on, rather than just going, hey, Trump wants to tear apart the ACA and he is an asshole. And so I think that's the platform that they were running on, and I don't really like that. Of course, the ACA has holes to it. That has been something that has been prevalent since 2010. But tell me how you're going to fix it then. and why you wouldn't repeal it, why those individual mandates are constitutional, which they're probably not. Go ahead.
Do you think it's that they don't think people can understand it if they try to get into it, or do you think they don't understand it so they don't get into it?
That's a good question you asked. So I don't know, Louis, if Louis told you that I'm doing a master's in public health.
No.
Did anybody tell you that? All right. So I'm working on a master's in public health. And so Obamacare is the hardest thing to understand. Or ACA, whatever you want to call it. I am lucky that I didn't have a lot of test questions on the ACA because that shit is tough. So do you know a lot about it? Because you can maybe teach me something.
No, I've never had to leverage it. And so I've only ever heard what other people's frustrations have been about it, but that it being very complex and convoluted and a lot of loopholes and struggles, especially if you're a provider.
Yeah, so this will spark another public health debate between us probably. But so the amendment shows, the 10th Amendment is that anything that is not specifically stated in the Constitution is in the hands of the states. And so what happened with the ACA is it has mandates for states, the individual states, to expand Medicare and Medicaid down to 100% of the federal poverty line, which is like nothing. So the federal poverty line is the same, obviously, in New York or in Bradford, PA. And the poverty line for an individual, a single person, is $12,000 a year. So there might be a lot of people in Bradford that aren't making $12,000 a year. So they're screwed, right? Because they're not even making anything of the federal poverty line. And then you got your people that are making $12,000 a year that are spending too much on insurance. And then you got your people that are making 50 that don't qualify. Your single mothers that are making 50 that don't qualify. So there's where a lot of the holes where the ACA come in. But back to your point, I think that could be a good point. Like maybe they just didn't think we would understand it. And that's another leadership. That's another quality in a leader that you need to have to be able to explain shit that people can understand.
That's always been my problem with Obama. You know, I love what Obama stands for. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
But I felt as time continued to go on, this very disingenuous, you know, I think he's good, but I don't buy it. And I guess it shouldn't be expected because it's a politician, right? And so you don't get to be the president without greasing some backs and probably fucking some people over along the way. But there's just so much about all of what he said. And maybe it's that he couldn't get it done. Maybe that's because of political opposition that didn't allow it to happen, or just other priorities. But it seemed to me to be the one theme of like this kind of slick talk, almost I'll talk down to you because I'm so intelligent, but then it never really ever came to fruition.
So I was in high school when Obama got elected in Mr. Pelka's class. And we didn't learn anything about that stuff. So the ACA, I imagine, was a part of his running platform. I'm sure that it wasn't altogether because it didn't get passed when he was elected. But I never understood anything about Obamacare. And I am betting, no disrespect to Dave and Dina and no disrespect to Rob and Sharon, my parents probably didn't understand that shit either. Like, nobody understood it. And that's part of the problem. I don't think Obama ever even had a thing that said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to repeal it so everybody has health insurance, which it did tend to. I think it went from 8.8 million people insured in 2010 to when Obama left office, there were 16.8 people insured, 6.8 mil. So a lot of people did get it.
This is where I get frustrated when you talk about the debates, right? Because I don't know how much money they pay a Chris Wallace or a Susan, whatever the woman from the USA Today.
Yeah, Susan Rice, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they even get paid. Maybe they don't get paid, but for getting that opportunity to sit down and interview and hold these people accountable, they put all their focus in being tough on the, hey, okay, your time's up. Your time's up. Your time's up. Stop talking. Your time's up.
Yeah.
But hardly do that. It's like you have a question prepared. You should be pretty sure of what the rebuttals are going to be, and you should be prepared with what your follow-up to their rebuttal is, and that's where you should be tough. And
Yeah.
none of it, dude. It's like
I was talking to Jennifer during these debates, and I'm thinking, like, if I was the mediator for these debates, when people were done talking, I'd start doing like the Ace Ventura, like the siren, like you're done. But they didn't. So Susan Rice seemed to obviously sway blue, and Chris Wallace was an outstanding. What do you call? I call it mediator. What's the moderator?
Moderator.
So Chris Wallace, I think, was an outstanding moderator because he's Fox News, but he's not Mr. like fucking all lives matter. And so I mean, I know they didn't stop the questions. They weren't prepared for rebuttals. You're right. Those debates sucked, especially the first one. And I don't want to bash on Trump, but like he was an asshole. And
he performed horribly. I was like shocked. I was kind of like, it seemed like the guy that partied all night the night before and then woke up, was like, fuck, I have to go take my SATs or I have to go to the debate. And then he like showed up irritated and just decided to steamroll it because there were so many opportunities that he missed that I was surprised that he missed.
Sure.
It was sad.
And dude, I was stoned out of my head during that thing. And me and Jen were just laughing so hard because, you know, the typical Trump raise your finger, but he didn't come with anything. I mean, he won that first question. So that first question, I don't remember what it was, but he beat Biden in that question because Biden started talking. It was about maybe the pandemic or the Black Lives Matter movements. And Biden went straight to the fucking ACA. Didn't say a word about what happened with the question, and he went straight to the ACA. And how do you win? How do you sway voters when you don't answer those questions? That's complete bullshit.
That's where I think people, I mean, think about it. Last election cycle, there was a lot of people that they still don't believe that Trump beat Hillary Clinton. They're so out of touch with a couple of things. They're out of touch with how a large majority of this country views things. And they're also out of touch in a way with how, like, when you look on Facebook and you see people on either side really like total MAGA, waving the flag. I follow a couple people. It's just fucking daily comedy, dude.
It's hilarious.
Trump had coronavirus. It wasn't real. He was faking it to meet with his top generals because they're going to go take Hillary Clinton down. And then you have the other people on the opposite side who are just as crazy on certain things, and
they're worse. I mean, they're worse. The liberals are worse on Facebook. Absolutely.
There's some people aren't going to change on either side. They're not going to change their vote, no matter how fucking crazy, no matter what Trump would get up there and say, or Biden says, they're going to vote that way, no matter what. Sure. The people that are in between, the things that are important to them that are going to make them go one way or another are some of the things that those people aren't answering, and that those people at home listening are like waiting for that one moment. And that silence is such a big deal. And there's certain things where I brought up to people on both sides. I'm like, this was like Trump not denouncing the KKK and hate groups, even though he's done it in the past, it wasn't a good move because there's people right now on the fence that were waiting for his opportunity to answer that question. And he didn't. And the same thing on Biden's side. And I actually thought it was kind of crazy that dude went full like RoboCop and was like, I support the police. We need, like, he kind of doubled down on the cop stuff. And I think he may have lost support from some people on that side. But there's a very narrow path for people who are watching this that are going to make up that 10% deficit very quickly. And it's the same thing that happened last election cycle, I think, with Hillary.
I don't remember those debates, but I'm totally on your side there, because if you don't know who you're going to vote for, you're there for a specific reason. I think Biden made a good point. He stole some of your voters, some of Trump's voters, by saying, yeah, I support the police.
Don't be calling them my voters. I'm
all right, sorry. He stole some of the red voters because he said, you know, of course I support the police. And, you know, there's simple little things you can do to make people like you. And I think that the majority of them
sniff their grandkids.
Like sniff their grandkids. But how about wear a fucking mask? The world wants you to wear your mask, but he had to like not what Trump and Melania had to not wear it to prove a point. And then they come out of the hospital with the coronavirus and say, nah, fuck it. We don't need to wear it. He leaves the hospital to go wave to people. He made a speech today or yesterday about how he was looking down on people from the hospital like he's fucking Jesus Christ, which is absolutely hysterical. This guy's so funny. And in 2016, when he was running on the platform of just being an asshole, I was like, okay, I got to vote for Hillary or I didn't even vote. But I have to be on Hillary's side because it's the lesser of two evils. But like, those debates were so funny. It's the first time anybody's got up there and been like, yeah, you're ugly.
Dude, when she said, it's a good thing you weren't in charge, and he said, yeah, because you'd be in jail. Like, that was the greatest one-line mic drop moment in fucking presidential debate history. That dude totally just ended her right there. It was like, oh, fuck, that's right.
Just the wit. Like, you should, I don't know if this was a meme, but it should have been one. Like that moment where the fucking mic drops and then Dr. Dre song starts playing and it zooms into his face with the sunglasses on. He was funny. And so a lot of people were like, what the hell? Let's have a change in 2016. But now it's like, I don't. So I said to you the other day, my life's not going to change.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, but it might change for a lot of people.
Yeah, and in either direction. And I think I've talked about this a couple of times. Everybody's reality is different. So, you know, something that might benefit me, that same action might make somebody else's life miserable for the next 2 or 3 years. So, you know, because that's just a reality. And not everybody wants to admit that. You know, they want to just be very selfish, and we live in a selfish world. So it's like, I don't really fucking care.
Bro, I have a story for you. You might have to end up cutting this. So I played golf the other day. I was golfing the other day, and there was a middle-aged woman single. So it was like 4:00 on a Wednesday. So I played with this middle-aged woman and then another kid who was, I think, 29. And so we had some good conversation, and like, they seemed like really nice people. And this kid was a hunter, and like, he reminded me of our friends back home. And then I think at some point she had a new boyfriend, and he was a MAGA supporter. And he was a Eagles fan. And she was like, my kids are bleeding heart liberals and Giants fans. So if you come home to Christmas dinner, don't wear your Giants jersey or your MAGA hat. So that was her way of telling me she was a Trump supporter. And then so I kind of deflected it. And then at the end, last hole, it was getting dark. And she goes, oh, I got to pull out a colored ball because it's, so I can see it. And I said, well, that's something a fucking Trump supporter would say. And so, that was her opening. That was her fucking opening to just be racist and horrible the rest of the way in. She was just like saying things about Uber support Black businesses, and why can't we support all businesses? And she was saying stuff that a typical, your typical Trump supporter would say, but it's just like, all they need is an opening to just, she knew that I wasn't going to be mad, and she just shot. and just took that opening and didn't stop talking about Trump and the economy for the fucking next 25 minutes. Go ahead.
This is interesting because a couple of things that I want to unpack. And there's actually something that got brought up from a previous episode that I want to bounce off of you because I know we think about things a little differently.
Okay.
So this whole like weaponization of language and words and things like that, right? I had an email that I got, and it was from a listener who wrote me a note that said, I listened to a lot of the podcasts and I came across the Tim Kennedy episode. And there was something that Tim said in that episode that was a little alarming, and that I don't even think Tim really understood maybe some of the implications of it. And it was around the term calling a spade a spade.
Oh, sure.
And that's extremely racist and offensive, and that it's something that, should be discussed, and I'm the type of person, like, obviously not a racist. I believe first and foremost in conducting yourself in a proper way, but also in intent. And I know what my intent is. And I know in my dialogue with Tim Kennedy, I don't believe he's a racist at all. I think he's about a straight up human individual that you can possibly be. But it begs the question of that word, because I went back and looked after I responded to this, that, first, I do apologize if anybody's offended by that, because I never understood it in that context. And that's just ignorance on my part for not knowing that. And in hindsight, it makes sense. But I did go back and look, and the origins of that word predate any type of racial connotation on that. And so it's just scary, because I think it's an example of language being hijacked into the use of something a lot more dangerous and detrimental. But we're in a time right now where that's starting to happen. So, like, being careful to not give power to people who are trying to take language and thought and make it dangerous for us to communicate, because I see it from the perspective of that's, something that's pretty offensive if somebody hears that. And so I'm sensitive to that. But I also am sensitive to somebody who may have a different understanding and were taught differently and don't have a racist, meaning behind their use of that, and that they don't want to give way and allow some other, fringe groups or whoever to take a word that doesn't mean that in the first place away from them. And I see it both ways. And I actually tend to lean on the side of, I don't think it's right that we have to change our meanings. But that said, I also, for something like that, there's 1,000 ways you could use a phrase. And so why use one that has the potential to hurt someone? But I wanted to bring that up because, we're different, and you seem to have a kind of look on your face the moment that I said it. So,
well, no, so I get it. I mean, I get where you're coming. So I got a lot of things to say about that. First of all, I got a buddy who says that a lot. And so every time he says it, we are like, yo, dude, chill. Because I tend to think, like, I don't want to get punched in the face for just some stupid saying that he's not even saying that in a racist connotation. He's saying, like, this sucks. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's go home. We're not catching any fish. Right. But I think it's important to keep in mind empathy. I think, if it makes somebody feel shitty, then what the hell, let's not say it. But if somebody slips and says an expression without knowing, then that's bullshit for you to call that person a bad person. So Tim Kennedy probably said that having no connotation of the Black Lives Matter movement or anything like that. He was probably talking about MMA, and this guy took it in the wrong connotation, I guess. So to call him a racist would be totally wrong, but keep in mind that empathy. So, like, I said cop around a bunch of, people of color the other day, and I was like, oh shit, I can't even talk about the police. So it's there. You're right. I feel the same way. But I agree with you.
Yeah, no. And I first I want to say they did not say that he was. They actually, I think in the email said they don't believe that he is, but they don't even believe that he maybe even realized what he was saying in the moment. But it's, you know, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? So there has been a negative connotation with that. So I'm going to cease using it just because, to your point, there's empathy.
Sure.
I guess I look at it now moving forward that it's a lesson to be learned that at some point in time, people actually had to give power to that phrase to the idiots that were using it that way. And I think it's why in the moment, it's really important to not just shrug off people who are like, hey, come on. Like, why are we tearing down this Washington monument? Like, there were people that were saying that back when, you know, the first couple of Confederate monuments were being taken down, and people were like, oh, you know, what's next? You're going to start tearing down stuff with Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. And people were like, oh, come on, you're just overreacting. And now that's happening. And I get it. There's a lot of bad shit in our history, but you can't hold and measure people from the past to the standards of today. That's kind of doesn't even like line up with your whole idea of having progress in the first place, because what are you going to measure yourself against the people of 100 years from now? And so I just think, like, you know, that right there is a great example of how this can go.
So I agree with you, because I mean, it's not, you can't erase history. And so I got a funny story, a funny saying that Uncle Don told me once. And I said this saying to somebody, and they just died laughing in movie gallery. Somebody said something about history in movie gallery, and I said this saying, and they didn't look at me and be like, oh yeah, you're right. They just cracked up laughing at me right away. So he says the midget can't see past the giant unless he sits on the giant's shoulders. Like, you got to understand history. It's a funny little fucking saying, especially because my family's 5'7". But it's true. You can't erase history. So you just got to you got to teach people, you know, if that's what a president should run on, and say, hey, listen, let's stop saying that because this is why, rather than just erasing it and then condemning people for saying stuff that they don't even know what it means.
Yeah.
The problem here is, and I guess we'll get off of politics because, you know, we wanted to laugh, but the problem is that being conservative is now synonymous with being a cocksucker. Yeah. And this country was built on conservative values, and whoever's conservative, you're a good conservative. You understand you're not a racist. You're not conservative because they say don't wear a mask. You were conservative long before Donald Trump, and you like what the party stands for. But now it's, I'm voting red, and you're automatically an asshole. Yeah. No, because you stand for the values that he stands for, or yeah. No, I think he stands for.
Yeah, I don't vote for anyone. I vote for the issues that are at stake and a lot of other things. And I think that's how people should go into this whole thing. If they're going to vote at all, go and do your research, and whatever is impacting you. That's the beautiful part of this country. It shouldn't be what the fucking Rock wants you to do. It shouldn't be, you know, what anybody that's in a movie or an athlete that I'm sorry, bro. Like, LeBron, you're living in a $25 million home that you pay for from an endorsement deal from Nike that makes its profits by employing slave labor in China. And then you fucking come here and tell the people in America whose jobs were taken by Nike and taken over there. So like, they were fucked once, and now you're going to come and preach them about racism and oppression, and you're fucking living in Beverly Hills or Brentwood with slave money, like literally slave money. That's what it is, right? I mean, am I wrong?
Laborers. Well, I don't know. So, I mean, I get, you make a good point about Nike being slave labor. Sure. But that's an 18-year-old, you know, they hand this 18-year-old kid all this damn money, and he wants to have a platform and say, hey, I'm not going to spend my money on bitches and hoes. I'm going to spend my money on teaching, on using my fame to teach America to be great.
So love it, want him to do it so much. I would just think if you really want to do good, you would take that money. And I know he has, he's invested in the community, which kudos to him, but then double down on that. Continue to do that, build programs and all the things that you think will help these communities that you grew up in and came out of. Getting on television and talking about oppression and all of these things that I'm sure you care about. Are you unaware that you are getting your money from a company that's directly benefiting from that type of shit in a different part of the world? Or do you just think the people that are listening to you are unaware and so you don't give a fuck? Either way, to me, it's wrong. And he should at least just, like, I don't care, make your money, bro. But then don't come back around and pander to the fucking people on the other side. It's just so disingenuous. And the fucking idiots that buy into that, that's who I worry about. I'm just like, you don't even like question it. You're just like, yeah, fucking right, man. LeBron knows, man. We're all, we're oppressed, man.
That sucks. And that sucks because a celebrity that plays basketball has way more power and way more fame and influence than the president.
Yeah.
You make a really good point about the Nike slave labor. I guess I'm not educated enough to like know about it, but when you think about it, absolutely.
I don't know like factual numbers but at the end of the day, they've outsourced a lot of their labor to China. And there's a reason why they do that, because they can pay people a lot less money. Like if Nike was really giving a shit about America and the streets that LeBron's campaigning for, like, hey, why don't you bring 5 or 6 of those factories back and put one in Detroit? Why don't you put one of them in Chicago? Why don't you put one of them in New Orleans? Why don't you infuse some of these communities with a great factory from Nike and make a little bit of less money? LeBron, maybe you don't have to get $1 billion. Maybe you can get 500 million and, we're all doing better. But it seems like everybody's stance only is it's conveniently always going to lead them to more money. Like it's never going to like take money out of their pocket. It's the same with The Rock. He posted a thing today about I'm now the most followed man in America. I've got 100 million followers. And then he alludes to the fact that when he made the announcement of his support behind Joe Biden, that he all of a sudden got 30 million new followers. Well, yeah, there was probably a lot of people who were Joe Biden supporters that never followed you before, and they went and followed you. So it's like very disingenuous that now you're trying to go out there and let people know, like, I'm really important. All these people now follow me. I'm a leader. Go vote for Joe Biden. It just
how much do you think they paid him? How much do you think the Biden campaign paid The Rock?
A ton of money. A ton.
There is.
And by the way, you can manipulate the fuck out of those numbers. Who are these new 30 million people, Rock? Who are they? Or did you fucking have Instagram bump your number up? Because at this point, you have so many fucking followers that it doesn't matter anyways. And it's all these people are interconnected. And I'm not trying to get all like conspiratorial, but anybody that reads that article and is like, well, it must be real. It must be real because The Rock got 30 million more followers. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? 30 million more followers? How do you know that 30 million people in America went and clicked the button? Come on.
And then it shows up on their algorithms because it was a Biden campaign move, and it's a smart. Fucking genius move.
Very smart.
And that's terrible. And a lot of it comes from a lot of my resentment for celebrities and stuff. I think maybe comes from like
Arnold
jealousy. No, like jealousy. Like I hate them. They're so much fucking better than me, and people care about them so much. And how many lives are they saving? Fuck them. Like I help families every single goddamn day, and nobody knows my name. Nobody wants to know my name, and I don't care.
Does this come from when you lived? You lived. So hold on, let's get this straight. You lived in a pool house next door to Jennifer Aniston, right?
She lived down the road from me, but it was close to me. The guy that lived next to me was a retired CEO of like Crystal Cruises or Princess Cruises, some shit like that. And so there was a yard up there and in the where I lived. And so I would go in my house or whatever, and then my dog would find a fucking way to escape, and he'd go down to Joe's house and have dinner with him like 3 times. He did this. He escaped. I go down there. He's at Joe's house, the CEO of the Princess Cruises or whatever the hell cruise company it is. And I walk into Joe's house. He's just like your normal grandpa. He's got his putting rug set out in his living room. I don't know if he had a wife or whatever. But then this guy probably had $1 billion, and he was probably a member down at the country club with fucking Mark Wahlberg, who both don't even know how to swing a goddamn golf club. Fuck that. That's my game. Like, that makes me so mad. I hate these rich people, and then they have to like put that stuff out on their platform. The Rock has never read a fucking article. I don't even know if he can read. Oh, and we're talking about you got that hat on.
I know,
you got the Rock hat on. Speaking of the ballot, pot's out in New Jersey. So they put it on the ballot to make it recreational legal. Is it recreational legal in Pennsylvania?
No, just
it might be on the ballot in PA too. It's what's it cost for a medical eighth?
Anywhere from 35 to 70.
Okay. They're charging us like $70, $65, $70 here.
Really?
And I'm living in Los Angeles where it's like going into a 7-Eleven and it's $25 for the best. Mm-hmm. So if it becomes legal, I wonder what they'll do with like those prices and stuff. But now I got fucking dice. I used to walk down the street to the dispensary. Now I got a dealer named Dice. He's got a pick in his hair.
Last time I was in the city, I had called you. I went to the Comedy Cellar and saw Ari Shaffir perform. And I had a buddy of mine hit me up with a delivery service, and some lady shows up with a fucking book bag. We go upstairs. She opens up her book bag and like literally rolls out this giant, it was like a dare kit. It was like all kinds of different samples. And she's like, okay, let me know what you want. Just like go through and pick it. And then pray that you don't fucking die.
Yeah, right. So you never know if it's legit, but I wonder. So me and Joey, when we lived out there, when we first moved out to LA, it was medically legal, but not recreational. But there was a dispensary, and Joey would just call. He's so fucking cool. He would just call and be like, I don't have my card. And the one dispensary was like, come on down. And so we started going to this dispensary, and it was, it was, what was I saying? Oh, it was cheap, but you didn't know what the hell that it was going to be. But so I called that buddy, and he said he would meet me in the city, but he'd never come out to Jersey. They don't know anybody in Jersey. So I got Dice, which is, Dice is a good guy, but we sat and smoked a blunt in a fucking parking lot the other day. And it was just like, God, I want to go golfing, man. Like, can we not be doing this right now in a kid's park in the middle of the day?
So is Jersey shut down? Like, what is Jersey? Is it all shut down right now?
Right this second, we got indoor dining, 25%. We have outdoor dining. It's coming back. Like the indoor recreational sports places are open. Schools are open. Hybrid, most of them. I think some of them are probably going the whole way, but then they're closing in New York right across the border again. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because there hasn't been any cases in my school specifically, but other places get screwed and have to regress immediately. What's it like at home?
Depends on who you are, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen what everybody's afraid of yet. And I feel bad if I say that and I offend somebody who has seen how this can affect people, but I don't know, man. I see they sell cigarettes still at the fucking gas station, and those kill 500,000 people every year. And I
I've seen
know
those.
they, it's very
It's
convenient, that this is all happening right now.
oh, are you conspiracy right now? Do you think? You think it's going to disappear in November?
Yes, because here's why. I think not that it's going to disappear in November. It's not so black and white. Conspiracy stuff isn't always so like on the ends of the spectrum. I think that this was let go probably by accident, possibly on purpose from China.
Sure.
And I think that they're sitting back laughing right now at how long we're continuing to deal with something that they didn't think was really going to impact us this long, because it's not as serious as we're making this out to be. But it's perfect timing because of the election. I think people are taking advantage of something. And so it's not one grand conspiracy, but more a lot of people that are using it as a tool and political lever in this election cycle. And it's dragging it out. And it's not that it's not real, but
Everything's dangerous. I'm with you. They're dragging it out. They're using it as politicized.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's awful what they're doing to it. I tend to agree tend to disagree. I think that it can really kill some people. But I've seen your podcasts talking about health.
Yep.
And people that are smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. It's absolutely true. I mean, I haven't smoked a cigarette since the shit started in February. I wasn't like an addictive smoker anyway, but you go out and you drink and you smoke with your buddies.
Yeah.
But then you play golf or something with somebody that's smoking a cigarette and you're like, hey dude, with all this shit going down, that's gonna really impact you if you get sick. You can't breathe anyway. And they make jokes and say like, haven't you heard cigarettes make you less susceptible to the virus? And so it's bullshit. But I think that a lot of people can die, especially kids.
There's a lot of unhealthy people in this world.
Well, that's true.
I mean,
that's fucking true as hell.
I don't think you have any of this information on hand, but what do you think the percentage of people who are, let's just define healthy as, what you and I consider healthy, right? How many healthy people do you think are dying from this? I'm sure some, but I'm also sure that there's been some healthy people who, drank a fucking energy drink.
Away.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Remember when energy drinks were killing people? And there's scientific anomalies. There's just the law of large numbers that when you have 300 million people, some people are going to die of things, but how many really healthy people are dying?
Well, you see one story every 3 months. 28-year-old doctor contracted the virus and died. My buddy Mike down the road went for a physical, got his blood taken, had antibodies. I know some people that have had just like a tickle in their throat for 2 days, and then all of a sudden they have the antibodies. They had the virus. They didn't know.
So here's a question.
I'm willing to bet I had it.
Yeah. And think about this, right? Okay. Tell me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, because here's how I make my decisions on all of this. I don't believe that it's fake. I believe that it can hurt and be deadly to people. It can be severe to some. And we really don't understand the long-term ramifications of what this means to people who do have it now.
Sure.
So, and there's a whole thing that can come from that, financial, right? If everybody that has it now has long-term effects and has to claim disability in the future, that could have a huge economic impact on our country as well. So there's a lot to it, right? But when I look at it and I see that the mortality rates are in the 2 to 4% range, dependent upon your age. If you're very young, it's like you have a 99 point something percent chance of survival. If you're 70 plus, you have like a 94% chance of survival. Then with comorbidity, the risks start going up higher and higher. If you're diabetic, if you're overweight, if you're all of those things. But we're basing that number, if I believe I'm correct, off of known tested positive cases and then looking at the morbidity rate of people that have died. But to your point, you think you've probably had it. If it's as contagious as we think it is, how many people in this country have actually contracted this highly contagious disease? Probably way more than the however many 2 million cases, right? It's probably 4 million. Maybe it's 10 million. Maybe 30 million people have got it, or how maybe it's just 20 times more, because I fucking asked 30 people, have you ever been tested? No. Have you been tested? No. A lot of people haven't been tested. And people who have died from it, they're not like hidden in closets. We know the people that have died. We've probably actually overcounted some, but
Probably.
we've at least covered all of the dead people. They're not hidden, but there are people who have had it that haven't died that we aren't counting as have had it. And so if we believe that the number statistically right now says that it's 97, 98, 99% chance, I actually think it's probably like 99.9 when you consider how many people are in this country that have had it.
I think you're right. I think the CDC has been able, with like the statistical formulas out there, I'm sure there's some estimations taking from a small sample size of people that have had antibodies and didn't know they had it, and then taking that sample size, that total population, using a smaller sample size to estimate all that stuff. I think though, and it could be that this goes back to your point, they're not going to release that. And I think that's because it's politicized. So it's all a scheme. And again, I'll say it one more time, I'm blue all the way. But they do fucking want this guy out of office so badly that they're going for anything. Is it his fault that this virus is not controlled? No, it's a fucking it's an amendment right for the states to control it. So absolutely not. It's not his fault. It's a dickhead governor in Florida. It's a dickhead governor in Texas. It's a dickhead governor in Georgia. Our dude here, Phil Murphy, has been great. New Jersey's doing so well because it's their response that matters. So the government has access to the Federal Reserve, has access to all PPE supplies. They have FEMA that can come in and help you, but not until you ask for it. So if a state didn't ask for it, they get screwed. That's part of what happened with Katrina. So New Orleans didn't know that they had to ask for FEMA to come in and help. Could that have been a ploy for George Bush to be an asshole and say, I don't like the mayor of New Orleans, I'm not going to go in until he asks? Maybe.
I thought he didn't like black people.
George Bush? That's what Kanye said, right? Kanye said that, yeah. Now he's running for president. I'd love to see what he's got to say. But so, no, it's not Trump's fault. And again, I think a lot more people have had coronavirus than what you really think. I probably have had it. Just being my buddies that have had it. And I quarantined. I did a pretty good job of staying safe. But like after a little while, dude, I had to play basketball with my buddies and shit like that. And so a buddy that I play basketball with and lift with had the virus and he didn't know it.
Yeah, there's the Stout Academy, the Jiu-Jitsu Academy here in Pittsburgh has like, I think 400 plus students, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And as of a couple of weeks ago, they didn't have any confirmed cases from any students. And those are people that are rolling around together in sweat downtown Pittsburgh. I mean,
that's true. I mean, at school, like, you know, I just think those kids are going to get too close to each other. Like high school,
let me ask
then you won't know.
How many, but how many people do you know that have had it? And then how much of what is it just what you see and what people are telling you?
So I got the girl that I lived with in Bel Air has it right now. And she
Does she though?
She's really sick. Sorry, Siri went off again. She's like, I asked her yesterday, I was like, can you like work out? Can you move? And she said, I just went up a flight of stairs and I feel like I'm going to fucking die. She's 32 or 33 years old, in good shape, all this stuff.
Is she a known liar?
She's not a known liar.
I'm not trying to fight. Who
do I know here that's had it? I knew a guy in New York that had it. I played golf with a doctor the other day who said he had it.
Do you think there's anybody that's told you that they've had it that didn't really have it? They're just trying to get like brownie points?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Um, I played golf with this doctor who was like, I had it, was asymptomatic. The one kid I knew in New York had a cold, but I guarantee. Who do you think had it or didn't have it and told the whole world he had it?
Trump.
Yeah, that motherfucker didn't have it. Get the hell out of here. He's fat. He's stupid. I mean, he's just every symptom that would have killed him.
I think he knew exactly everything that was going to transpire, even down to we want to have a virtual debate, and that he would be able to then say, I'm not doing it. And
what a genius. What a genius. That's so true. If you can think that far ahead, you deserve to be president. But I don't think it was him that thought that far ahead. I think it was his administration.
Kayleigh
Holy shit, dude. Look, dude, she's so hot.
I'm voting for her. 4 more years of that.
I said that in the group chat to my parents the other day. I'm a huge troll with my family because obviously, like, I got a lot of Biden supporters in my family. And when Trump got it, my mom said something about, why don't you go get close to your White House press speaker? And I said, dude, I would love to get close to that girl. She's fucking ridiculous. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, did Louis tell you what he did as far as the news article with you?
Dude, he did tell me. Have you heard anything? Did anything pop up?
I've been looking every day. I think so. For anybody listening, my brother stopped at a synonymous house in Western Pennsylvania that's called the Trump House, and it's painted like an American flag. They sell all kinds of souvenirs, and it's on the side of a state highway. And he stopped there when he was driving by, and there were reporters there, and they stopped him and asked if they could ask him some questions, and that they were from the New York Times. And so he instructed them that his name was Kenny Konwinski from New Jersey, and he was visiting family in the Pittsburgh area. And when they asked him questions about the Trump house, he went into like the most mega Trump support that you could possibly imagine and totally threw your name behind it.
That's absolutely hysterical.
Eating it up. He has her card. I need to get what her name is.
I love that, dude. You guys do that stuff to me all the time. So he went into my bank account one time and saw so I was driving across the country. I was coming back to New Jersey, and he saw where I stayed, like a shithole hotel in like Missouri or something. And he fucking used one of those apps, and he called me from that shitty hotel and left me a voicemail about how like there's charged porn to the room and I owe him $70. I called the hotel back and I was like, hey, what are you talking about? And the guy looked at my stuff and was like, there's nothing on here. And I immediately clicked. I was like, I know exactly what happened. And then he did the Benton thing to me. Have you ever heard about the Benton thing?
What was it that he did?
So after Benton had died, he called me from Benton's number and played a voicemail of hey, it's Mr. Benton. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was high as fuck and got a voicemail and listened to it. And every hair on my body stood up because I still had his number saved in my phone. And so it said I had a missed call and voicemail from Rick Benton. And I was like, that's really fucking strange. Like, how did somebody else would have that number? Why would it call me? And so I like went and looked, and it was like there was a 30-second voicemail. So I'm like, that's fucking stranger. And I clicked it, and it was him. And he was like, Justin, how are you? Like talking to me. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I literally, dude, I was freaked out. It took me.
He's so clever. You did that with me, with your financial advisor. Told him I was a high wealth individual. He's calling me 10 times a day trying to get money off of me. Have you been getting any calls from
Kaplan University in DeVry?
University of Phoenix? I've been trying to do that forever. I wanted to get your email, but I didn't know how to ask you for your email.
Thanks. Yeah. I put two and two together because it was right after I sent you the invitation for this show. I got a bunch of fucking phone calls from some dude. I'm like, what the hell? And I answer the phone. He's like, hey, this is Jeff from Kaplan University. How are you? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, what do you want? And he's like, I'm just following up on your application. I was just wondering if you had some time to talk about getting ready. I'm like, bro, I am not, I'm a 33-year-old adult. And then it hit me. I'm like, Kenny's a fucking dick.
I really wanted to get you for that financial advisor thing. We do that shit to each other all the time. Joey used to leave me voicemails just like at 3:30 in the morning. He's like right next to me and used to leave me voicemails to go get him Del Taco. Do you remember how stoned Joey used to get before he became like doobie?
Mm-hmm.
Like he used to get so stupid and would lay on the floor and just go, ah. And that was just so much fun. We had a blast together. And then, you just get older and you can't do that as much. Like I can't see myself dancing at those fucking bars and spilling beer all over each other.
That trip to Lake Havasu, so public service announcement to anybody that's going to go to Lake Havasu. If you're going to go during spring break and be prepared for whatever it is that happens there, but don't go out of season because you'll find yourself in the throes of a meth-laced fucking community of random people. Dude, that was the most bizarre. I felt like I was in Deliverance.
Yeah, dude, it's like, Breaking Bad, how they're like, you look at Albuquerque or wherever they are and you're like, this is just so dreary. Desert fucking trash, dude. That's a different breed. Like we're Bradford, PA, man. Those people in Bradford versus desert trash, they're just a different breed of meth heads. Remember that bar? We walked in there. I was like, oh, look at these scummy fucking people. They wanted to kill me. And I didn't even mean it like that. I just kind of was like, look at these guys. We're home. And didn't come off right. And you were like, let's get out of here. It doesn't seem like a good place for us to be.
Well, speaking of getting out of here, so everything happening. I was thinking about this earlier and I wanted to ask you this question. If you had the opportunity to go any place in time in history and experience being in that time, not necessarily, you can tell me like an actual like range, but I'm talking like a significant event. So is there like a significant event in history that you can think about that, like what would be your three most desired that you could go back to?
So like I would love to be in medieval times, like a war in the medieval times. I don't want to be in it, obviously. I don't want to get my head cut off with a sword, but watching that would be so sick. I guess like a beheading would be cool. And then you got your 60s stuff where it's just like they were just so stoned out on acid, which isn't me, but it would be fun to watch.
No, I'm saying like any particular thing, like
particular event in time. It's got to be wars, man. For me, those are the things. But I love history in terms of like, I love war history, like Stalingrad and just like the whole Holocaust. It's just so interesting to me. I think probably where I would like to be is like when the US won the war. I'd like to see the feeling that people had and like the relief. Like when this pandemic's over, I imagine it's going to be kind of the same thing. Like, holy shit, we made it. Like people are going to be crying. It's going to happen on election night. You're just going to see, well, it's not going to, if you think that's going to be like 4 months after we're going to know
it's going to be a nightmare no matter what happens, dude. No matter what. Nobody's going to be happy with the results.
Yeah. What do you think? Where would you like to be?
Number one would be Woodstock. I would have loved to have been at Woodstock. I would have loved to have been at the crucifixion, something that has fascinated me a lot to like see like what actually happened, to be there. And maybe like being in Dallas when JFK was shot. Or
see, I was gonna go to that. I was gonna say something like
cliche,
that.
Maybe, but it's just, and maybe those are really bad. And there's probably a lot of other things that I could go back to, but those have always
Sure.
fascinated me.
To be at like a specific event like JFK getting shot, to be watching that on TV. So I was watching the RNC the other couple weeks ago, and I was just like, this is it. He's gonna die on television. Like there's gonna be like I was like, this is gonna be a JFK moment. And I just couldn't imagine. Can you fucking imagine that? Watching that on TV or the spaceship blowing up?
Oh, no. No, I mean,
What was
well,
that called?
I mean, I did watch it. I think about it right now. 9/11, man. When I was my freshman year of high school, I watched that second plane slam into that tower.
You did? You
Yeah,
saw that on TV?
watched it on television.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Dude, GGB. So they fucking they wouldn't tell us. They wouldn't say a word. They were like, there's a surprise, is what one of my friends told me. He was like, yeah, right? Fucking surprise. But so, here up in the New York area, this is an example of human empathy and just like how it's just not really there with a lot of people. So here, people are so torn up on that day. It's such a solitary day, and for me, I just it's nothing to me, and I feel bad thinking that. But like that's just I was 11 in Bradford, PA. They didn't tell me what happened, and so it's a different feeling for you because you were older and you were watching it. But so I go up to you can see New York City pretty much from my apartment. Like you just go right up the hill and there's a huge 9/11, the Jersey 9/11 memorial is there, Essex County. And so you can see the towers shooting up. And it's amazing. So I go up there. The past 9/11s I've been here, I've gone up there. And this year they weren't going to do the towers. Do you remember how much controversy that sparked?
Yep.
What happened?
I don't
Like
know.
they did it. They did do it.
Did they do it?
Yeah, so I saw the towers shooting up, and it's packed. Like people go up there and look at it, and so you can feel it when you're looking at those towers. But I had no idea. It was a normal day for me. I rode my bike down to Zach Kinney's house and played backyard football. It wasn't.
No, it's actually been a while. It's I forget how old that I've gotten, but I was definitely we had an announcement during an assembly. There was a motivational speaker that was at the high school talking to us, and they said that there was just a airplane that flew into one of the World Trade Centers. And when we went back to class, you're sitting there watching it. It was within a couple of minutes of watching it in class that the second plane hit.
That's just a crazy experience. And you'll always remember that motivational speaker. You should have him. You should call him. See if you can get him.
I've looked into it. I'm working on it, let's say.
But just growing up, like we just grew up in a totally different world than anybody. Have you found, so you're in an urban area, I mean, Pittsburgh. Have you found differences in yourself between just like who you're with, who you see on a daily basis, who you hang out with, and the differences between the people that you're with in Pittsburgh versus the people that you're with at home?
Yeah, no, a lot of differences in a lot of ways, and some similarities. I think what I've realized more than anything is you realize who your true friends are. You realize who your true supporters are. People are who I miss though. I don't. I miss memories of our town. I miss people, but when I go back, I'm quickly reminded why I left, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to be negative, but it's a sad place sometimes to go back and see. And I've kept in contact with a handful of people. I wish I kept in contact with more. The crazy thing about this podcast is that I've been able to generate a community and a group that's outgrown even Bradford now. And
sure,
you start to have a different reality. Like I posted some goofy ass video on my Instagram yesterday, and it was like, what is reality? I had a cool conversation the episode before this with a neuroscientist. I just released it earlier today. And we talked about the brain. We talked about even simulation theory and the possibility that we do live in a simulation. And he kind of like blew my mind. And I kind of walked away from that thinking like, what is reality? Because I have a new reality now. I have a community of people. Some of them are in Europe, some of them are in Australia, some of them are in Canada, some of them are in South America, and
Sure.
they're starting to communicate with each other. And quite honestly, some of them are closer to me now than some people that I used to be close with are to me now. And I've built relationships that way. And it wasn't that long ago that I was kind of freaked out by the fact that like we're starting to have these worlds that aren't really like in person, but
Yeah.
it's almost through osmosis. And it's like how everything else in technology, just you look and it's, I remember when the Instagram changed and put stories in, and I'm like, what the fuck's this shit? They're like copying Snapchat. And now nobody uses their regular feed in Instagram. Everybody uses the stories. And it's the same thing, man. Like I'm building relationships and friendships that are deeper and stronger than some of the people that I used to have personal relationships with. And not all, there's
Yeah. Truth. I mean, there's 100. That's true. And so, like, when I go home, I think about it, and I realize why I'm not so close with people anymore. I think I think our relationship between the five of us, that's like really strong, and we all go a separate way, but we're just like always gonna be there. But there's other relationships at home where it's just like, dude, I can't even believe I hung out with you when I was younger. Um, I have been living in a lot of different places, predominantly cities, and I realize just how different it is. But it's harder to make friends as you get older. So I do have relationships, but I have made very minimal adult friends, and I have been in different places. Obviously, I spent 2 years here, 2 years there. But so, like, adult friendships that are as deep as the ones that I've made in college and in high school, I don't even know if they exist, especially when everybody's trying to do something different.
yeah. No,
I think, can you benefit me?
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I've preached and preached and preached about martial arts and have martial artists and talk about jujitsu. And the reason I do that is because that for me has been a way to find relationship and community, because everything you just said, I've found to be true as well. Like as you get older, it's harder to, maybe it's not everybody, but for me, it's harder to make friends because I look for more than just surface level bullshit to be your friend with. It's everything's so like quick gratification, Instagram, social media, that you don't really ever get below that surface. And so doing difficult tasks with people, if you get up early and you go to the gym with a group of guys or girls, or you go and do jujitsu, or you're in chess or something where you're building a bond that's deeper than just a quick interaction. That I think is how you find those friends along the way. And then when you move, I still keep in contact with people who I met in different areas or places, but we've got something more than just a brief exchange of, to your point, how can I help you now? Or how can you help me now? It's more than that.
That's true. And I mean, they're there. Obviously, those relationships still exist. Um, but is it really wrong to want to, I don't want to say use somebody, but benefit from other people? Like, we grew up thinking that that was wrong. Like, to want to be friends with somebody because you can benefit from them. But like a symbiotic relation, I don't know if that's the word, but a relationship where both the people benefit each other, that's kind of like what you're looking for. And it always just tends to be hard to find.
Yeah.
Somebody wants more from the other person.
Well, that to me is the problem with society, right? It is hard on an individual basis, but it's easily managed when it's just you. You can do hard
Sure.
things, right? But when you try to have that same type of perfection in mass society, where you don't have the ability to control all the variables, that's where I have a hard time getting behind a lot of these really great sounding social ideas that I agree with. I want free healthcare. I want colleges for free for people if that's the way it goes. Like I want all this great stuff. I want everybody to help each other. I don't want any hungry people. I want everybody to have a living working wage in their bank account. I wish that a pandemic didn't hurt people financially when they don't get it, work for 6 months. But all of that said, when you do all of those things and you then put it into the world, it usually doesn't end
Number
up.
one's got to be first.
Has to be. You got to feed yourself.
And it's, I mean, that is human nature. So like, I do behavior analysis, right? And so I practice predominantly with autism, but I want to practice in public health. That's why I'm getting a master's in public health. And I want to, I essentially want to write policy and work in government. But, all behavior serves a function. There's a couple different reasons why anybody engages in anything. And that goes through everything. Like, I mean, a kid with autism, public health systems, politics, it's about me. I want to benefit myself. Of course, those socially significant behaviors, I want kids to engage in. I want to teach them that, but I need you to find a functional way to benefit yourself. And so that's where business and all that stuff comes in, and organizational behavior psychology, right? So how do we benefit the public, but we still benefit a little bit more? So it's really difficult, and it's all about socially mediated positive reinforcement. And right now, the money and sex are the two highest reinforcers in the world. You can say, I go to work because I'm passionate, but you're lying. And I'm not you specifically, but like, I said that to a dad the other day that I engage in something. I go to work every day. Of course I'm passionate, but I get paid at the end of the day. Why the fuck would I come to work if I didn't get paid? I think the dad was like, no, you're passionate. You come to work because you're passionate. And of course, yeah, sure. I want to help your family, but if I can make $1 billion somewhere else, I would do that too.
You're the type of guy I want helping my kids.
Yeah, but I want to get paid so fucking much that I am going to help your family, because I'm going to not be successful at my job, and then I'm not going to get paid if I didn't help your family. And so there's no better feeling than watching a kid change his life and his family to change their life, and a mom to be able to sleep at night.
How much of that is program driven? I mean, from what you see, is it overwhelmingly positive? Are these things making big impacts, or where's the hang up? Because there's still, like, if you look at all of these places where this type of ideology should, and you would think would be very prominent, those are still the communities that 20, 30 years later, you hear about like nothing's changed here. So what, like everything, you know what I mean? Like it all makes sense, but why is it not manifesting into what we think it should?
So what do you mean, with kids with autism, or you're talking about just like systems in general?
Well, aren't all kids that are poor have autism?
I go the other way. All kids that have autism are poor. You got to cut that one, please. So the thing is, all right, so why systems do not change? Because somebody that is intervening or putting the intervention in place has to fucking benefit. So it goes all the way back to health, essentially. All right, so Donald Trump, take a businessman, for example. He has a franchise of McDonald's. What's the cheapest food in the world? McDonald's. I'm going to put that in the hood. The people go to McDonald's, they get fat, they get diabetes, then COVID comes around and it kills more people, kills more black people. Well, why the hell not? Why the hell wouldn't it? Because they're all unhealthy. When's the last time you've seen a Panera Bread or a salad place in the hood? They all run by, never. It's all fast food. After we get off this, I'm gonna go to Taco Bell down the road in East Orange. I mean, it all stems from a certain issue, and that's who's gonna make money.
They panhandle all the time.
Speaking of that, the people in Bradford, have you seen the body cam videos of Bartlett?
No.
Oh, watch those videos. I watched them yesterday. I would love for you to pull it up on the screen, obviously. Dude, he's like, in one video, so the first video, it's WESB.com. The top video is him talking shit to the guy in the car. So the kid's in the back after he maced him, and he's like, I can't see. And Bartlett's like, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass if you keep talking to me like that.
So this is he's no longer the police chief, right? He resigned, correct?
He either got resigned. I don't know if he resigned. He got suspended without pay. Did he actually get resigned or kicked out or something? I hope.
Yeah, I don't think he's the police chief. I think somebody else is the police chief right now. So he was in trouble for citizens captured him roughing up a kid getting into a police car from a window of their house, right? And that's what kicked this whole thing off.
Yeah. So he was always an asshole. You knew that. I mean, I remember you called him RoboCop 20 years ago. You're like, there's fucking RoboCop at the football games. And he was the school cop for a while. I think he got fired from that for macing a kid or something.
A handicap.
Macing like a kid with autism.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy. But so apparently he roughed up this kid, and then the kid was beating his wife maybe, but it looked like a kid, but apparently he was an adult. He was like a married adult. And so it was his wife that I think he was roughing up.
He's not like the best example of a great citizen of society in all.
No, absolutely not. And dude, you have to listen to him talk. He didn't even know where he was. He goes, my wife's in Bradford. And Bartlett's like, we are in Bradford. The guy was just so, I'm sure he had some mental problems. He had a speech impediment and things like that. But like, I thought he was drugged out. Mm-hmm. And so Bartlett's getting all this shit. So Bartlett's a fucking asshole. But in that video, police brutality is a big thing, but in that video, like, you don't see anything wrong. This kid beat his wife. He's talking shit to a cop. It's like, man, you got a lot of patience to be sitting here and just ignoring this guy while he cries in the back of your car. Like, you can see it's on Delaware, so you can see him driving down Delaware. You can see Kristen's old house. Dude, it's like, I watched it on the golf course yesterday, and I wanted to go beat this fucking kid. He was so bad.
So he's in the back of the cop car, and Bartlett comes up and starts talking shit to him?
Bartlett's driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Bartlett's like, I'm the chief of fucking police. There is no step up above me. And he goes, you abuse your authority. Like, he's crying it. And Bartlett's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It's hysterical. And again, I don't condone police brutality in the least bit. And this guy was not a minority. He was just a scummy white kid. Just fucking scum. I'm going to send you the link after we get off here.
All right, brother. Let's get the fuck out of here. It was great talking to you.